Hi folks, this is Clare from Arts Clare. Today we're going to be having a go at making some Picasso-esque type sculptures. They would have normally been made in clay or ceramics, but today we're going to make them out of some found objects and things you'd have maybe in the house, or if you're in a healthcare setting that wouldn't be too hard to get hold of. So Picasso's probably one of the world's most famous artists. He lived until he was 91. He was a child genius and was creating significant artworks from a very, very young age. I always feel incredibly lazy when I look at the amount of work Picasso produced in his lifetime. And I couldn't possibly do it any kind of justice in this short video. So I would suggest, if you're interested in Picasso in any way, to do an internet search, and if you might also find some really nice documentaries that you could watch either on YouTube or something like iPlayer, one of those kind of forms. He's such an interesting artist, and he lived through so many different types of art forms and pioneered art movements that I really couldn't do it justice. So I'm going to just whiz through some images just to show you quickly how much his work changed from as a young artist right through to his later life. I mean, he trained traditionally, and you know, these are kind of early paintings of his. That's a painting of his mother, which you can see is extremely accomplished. He was a fantastic draftsman, fantastic painter. He went through different periods as well. This was his famous blue period, and then it went sort of blue into his rose period. And when he was in the blue period, he was in great poverty and in living in very depressed conditions, which I think would have significantly impacted the type of work that he did. He then went on to pioneer the movement called Cubism, using lots of abstract geometric forms. And then as the years went on, his work became much more simplistic. He used quite graphic, primitive images. He was influenced by African art and other primitive art forms. And then he was living in the south of France, and he visited a very famous pottery studio there, and decided to team up with them to create a much more accessible range of his artworks, because by then his artworks were worth a lot of money. His paintings were worth a fortune even then. So he created a range of ceramics with this pottery, very much in this simplistic, primitive style. And as you can see, they're quite playful. There's animal imagery, lots of faces, beautiful shapes, really playful. Just, you know, real feeling of just letting go and letting the material work with you and what you can do with it. So a lot of experimentation. I think that's one of the things with Picasso, is he never stopped experimenting. He was continually propelling himself forward, continually investigating all different types of art processes and art forms. So these are sort of a close-up of some of these types of work. And then I'm just going to flip up and show you the kind of thing that we could make just using stuff that's lying around. Now, the central one, this turquoise piece, that is the main belly of the piece is a balloon. And then I found a polystyrene ball, so I sandwiched it in between two toilet roll holders. I had a little bit of tubing, so I attached that. And now there's different ways you could do this as well. If you have more time and space to kind of spread out and maybe leave your work over a period of a couple of days, you could use paper mache technique and layer this up over a series of days, and that will harden, and that would probably make it a bit more robust over the longer term. But if you're wanting to just do something, a quick play and something like much more immediate, and you maybe have a smaller environment, maybe you're in a hospital room and you have a small table and you don't necessarily want to create tons of mess, the other way I would suggest to do this is a much drier process, and that's just using masking tape. So as you can see here, I've left this one kind of unfinished because I just want to show you how the inner workings are. So very simple balloon, toilet roll holders. I happen to be lucky enough to have this kind of tubing at home. And for anybody, especially if you're Belfast based and you've been to the Play Resource Centre, you probably have some of this in your the residential care home or at home maybe, if you're an artist maybe. So just building them up layer by layer, just building up, and you can just play with this so much, you know. You don't have to be precious because you're just using lots of little bits of found objects. I mean, probably the most expensive thing here is the masking tape. That's about it really. Also, I was trying to think how, if you were in a very confined environment, how you could do this. Now, for example, this one here, these ones here, this and the blue one, I painted them with a base with acrylic paint and then painted over them very quickly, as you can see. Like I say, these are just very quick examples. This one here, however, I actually used the colour of the masking tape as my base. Where is it? So that happened to be the colour of the masking tape. So I used that as my base, and then I use permanent markers, or if you're a bit fancy schmancy, you might have some acrylic markers, but you know, a Sharpie will do the job. And so I was able to create this piece in particular without any mess, without any wet messiness going on. So if you are in a confined hospital environment and at the minute everything's quite isolated, you know, this could be something that you could do without needing too much in terms of materials to create. And it just means you could work away creating some sculptures and having a bit of fun and just having a wee bit of a release in a confined space. But like I say, if you did have more time, you could also use paper mache technique and have a paint, and that's it. It's really just about having a bit of fun. And if you have time, do internet search on Pablo Picasso. You'll be completely blown away by the amount of work he's produced in his lifetime. Okay, I hope that was useful, and hope you can have a wee go and a play. Alright, thank you.